What happens when you've medically served the sick, but then you require medical support for yourself? Well, in 10 seconds, we are going to hear from a wife, a mother, a grandmother, a Christian, and a healthcare professional who found herself on the wrong side of the medical table when she was diagnosed with cancer. It's time to chop some wood. Let's get it. Stick around. You don't want to miss this show. Hey, it's Pastor P, your voice of inspiration, the number one, that's right, number one authority on all things related to cancer care ministry support. And I want to be clear today, after 30 years of supporting cancer patients inside of the local healthcare system, preaching and teaching literally around the world, helping churches develop cancer care ministries, this is your number one stop for all things relevant to cancer care ministry support. And so today we are continuing to do what we have always done, and that is bringing you health, hope, and inspiration. Remember, this program is brought to you by PMM, Percy McCray Ministries, a nonprofit tax-exempt organization, and is supported by your generous financial support, big or small. And so I thank you today for being my partner and helping us to continue to spread the words of health and healing and wholeness in directing, instructing, encouraging, and educating God's people around the power of health, wellness, medicine, science, and faith, and how they work together today. And so continue to support us. Go to our website at percymccrayministries.org, percymccrayministries.org, and you will be instructed where you can sow your seed into this fertile ground as we continue to carry the kingdom work of God literally around the world. And so we thank you for that today. Also, before we get started, I want to remind you, please click like, the notification bell, share, and do subscribe to this show and leave comments, please. Let me know if there's something that's being said that is blessing you, that is encouraging you, that was worthy of your time. Again, I want to respect your time. It is precious. And so let us know if there's something that is being said that is blessing you today. So again, please hit the like button, the notification bell, share and subscribe, and do leave comments regarding this program or any of the program that is being produced by Percy McCray Ministries. That being said, how you doing and how you living? Well, I want to set the atmosphere for today's conversation and for this show with a spiritual nugget that is found in the Gospel of Luke. And it was interesting who wrote this book, because again, we talk about medicine and science and health and faith on this program. We're balanced, and we want to maintain a balance as we continue to instruct God's people that, again, we are people of faith. We are walking by faith. We are speaking the words of faith. We are praying for our health and our wellness. But while we are praying, we are also watching. The Bible says, watch as well as pray. And that means there's some things that we need to do in the natural environment around us while we are operating our spiritual prerogatives, and we combine them together. So listen to this scripture. Luke, the physician Luke, who wrote this book, as well as the book of Acts, Luke, the 4th chapter, and we're just going to read two verses 23 and 24 to help establish where we want to go with today's conversation. Says just this: you will surely say this proverb to me, physician, or in this particular case, healthcare professional, physician or healthcare professional, heal yourself. Whatever we have heard done in Capernaum, do also here in your country. And may the Lord add a blessing to the reading of his holy word. Well, I'm thrilled. I always say I'm thrilled and I'm excited for every show that I do. And I really do mean that, because in most cases, in many cases, the people that I interview are people that I know, people that I've had a very significant relationship with, either personally, professionally, or ministerially. And in this particular case, that kind of fits all of the categories, and the boxes get checked with this particular woman of God that we're going to bring on the show today. So I'm excited to bring to you now, and I'm going to bring her on the screen. There we go. Sister Suzanne Lewis, a nurse practitioner who has recently completed her last round of radiation treatment for breast cancer. She's going to discuss with us today a little bit about her journey, but also her medical and her ministry, her medical ministry. I want to say it that way. I know you've never heard that before because you're churchy. You didn't know that attending to the sick and dealing with the issues of healthcare is a type of ministry according to the scriptures and the gospel, where Jesus said, listen, I need you to go take care of the sick. I need you to go look after them. And he said, when you do this as unto them, you've done this as unto me. Matthew 25:41. So there's a mandate for ministry to the health and wellness of God's people. And we ignore that type of focus, but we're going to talk about that today. And here's someone who's been doing this 30 years solid. I know 25, 30 years. She'll clarify how long it's been here in just a second. But today I want to welcome to the show my dear sister, a friend of mine, someone who I've known and loved. I knew her children when they were small. Welcome to the show, Sister Suzanne Lewis. How are you doing today, my dear?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. So I'm so grateful that you have asked me to be here with you and to begin to talk about this journey. I can't thank you enough for allowing me to be here.
Oh, it's literally, it is my privilege. And I say that, and I want people to hear my heart. One of the great things, this type of media and ministry that has become ministry for a lot of people, you know, we all remember when COVID took place, and when COVID took place, it forced all of us to go indoors, and it forced us to think of different ways to communicate and to express ourselves because we couldn't engage, we couldn't go anywhere. And this became that medium, social media, digital communication. We understood that we need to rethink, re-engineer. How do we put ourselves out there? How do we engage and talk with people? And this has become a very powerful mechanism. And so I am grateful for the opportunity virtually to be able to touch base with you. And we're going to dig into some stuff, sis. We're going to really get into some grit things around health, wellness, medicine, science, faith, et cetera, et cetera. And before we do that, I met you and your wonderful husband 26, 27 years ago, I believe it is. And I say this on the show all the time. I literally have relationships, friendships that date back 20, 30, 40 years. And I know people literally around the world in ministry, healthcare providers, so on and so forth. And so I'm not new to this conversation. I'm true to this conversation. I've been doing this a really long time. And in fact, I met you at a healthcare facility where we both worked together. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
And if my memory serves me correctly, at that time, you were a respiratory therapist, I believe. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So my memory is still pretty good. I'm getting old, but I still got a pretty good recall. And we began to talk and engage and, and then, of course, we then started doing ministry together in the local community that we lived in. And then your husband, I met your mom and your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, and just had wonderful relationship with you, your family, and you guys now have gone on to do awesome things. And we'll talk about that in your own right. But we have a long-standing history and a relationship one with another. And I love you so much and I respect you. And I thank God for your story today. Mm-hmm. That said, now that we got that out the way.
One thing about that.
Oh, please. Oh, yeah.
You know, we were very young back then. I mean, we were in our 20s. You were probably in your 30s, but we were still in our 20s. And that time was so instrumental for us. We had come from a place where we had a strong foundation, but our time in ministry with you was something like none other. I still, in my mind, I don't know if you remember, I can remember us being in the Bahamas, going to the Third World Leadership Conference. And in our 20s, being exposed to that and seeing these leaders, Miles Monroe and all these leaders from all over the world. And what that
I would like to share with you on the power of purpose. I want you to take notes tonight, especially those of you who are still not sure why you're here. The power of purpose. Don't miss it.
And what that did in us, what that instilled in us, is far beyond anything I can clearly articulate, but it put purpose way down on the inside of us. And we knew that we were more than what we had just experienced. It expanded our perspective. We knew that when we left this world, when we finish what we were doing, we were going to be spent. We wanted to do the work that God had called for us to do. I think, and that's probably a great way of explaining that season in our lives and what you did for us, getting us and moving us into a place that we were comfortable with change and being comfortable with being uncomfortable and learning new things and being willing to do the work that you're called to do.
Well, sis, I did not prompt you for those remarks, and I'm trying to keep my emotions and the equilibrium up because you're right, and I had forgotten about the Bahama trip and meeting Dr. Miles Monroe and all of those times that we had, and it was a pivotal season in my life also. And again, I wouldn't trade not one day of those experiences. I'm grateful for that, and I just want to say I thank God. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. I've had a long winding road from a ministry perspective, but with relationships that still stand and are still meaningful to me. And so I'm grateful for whatever contribution that was made on my behalf in that regard for you and for Reverend Lewis, your husband, Darren Lewis. I'm grateful for that opportunity. And here we are today. So God is good. He is faithful, and he uses every season of our lives to help prepare us and to perpetuate us for the next season of our lives. And that's what we're going to talk about in that regard. So as stated in the introduction, you are a surviving breast cancer patient. And so let's get this story out the way, because again, I think it's important. First of all, I am a surviving cancer patient. So I like to tell people I've been there, done that, and I've got the t-shirt to prove it. Because for many years, Sister Suzanne, I remember the day when I received the phone call and the doctor said to me after having done scope that I had a golf ball sized tumor in my intestines, and that GI told me, you need to talk to a surgeon right away. And did that, reach back to some relationships that I had that we mutually know back in the Chicagoland area. I was in South Florida. He's okay with me calling his name Dr. Vashi, who still to this day is my GI. I just had some time with him, and we're going to get him on the show as well to talk about gastroenterology and all of the things that we need to understand about colon cancer and so on and so forth. And he did my workup, got me back at the facility there in Illinois, set me up with a surgeon, had my surgery taking place, and all that went into that. But I remember the day when I heard those words, you have cancer, and I had to process that. And I had to process it from a very different vantage point. And I'm curious with respect to you, if this will be similar, that having, I think it was 22 years that I had been supporting cancer patients in, day out ministry on a very 18 years bedside, direct bedside ministry every day to cancer patients, their caregivers, their loved ones. I married many of those people. I did many of those people's funerals. I blessed some of their children. I mean, the experience of what I was allowed to do. I've been in many of their homes, their local churches. They invited me out to preach and teach, et cetera, et cetera. So I felt that, at the end of the day, subconsciously, I think that I was probably exempt from this experience. And that's why I read the scripture that I read today. And then when I heard the words that you have cancer, I had to really stop and process, oh, he's talking to me. This is not somebody I'm going to be praying for or supporting. I now have to come to terms with, this is something that is taking place in my life, and how am I going to process that and what I'm going to do with that. Question: when you heard the words the first time that you have cancer, what ran through your mind?
I said, this is not my story. This is not my story. I literally had a moment where I had to step back. I'm not new to health issues.
No.
Even when you met me when I was younger, I had autoimmune issues that I was working through. So I dealt with a lot of pain. But that was the prompting for me going on to school to become a nurse practitioner, to work in functional medicine, to provide an integrative approach to care. It was the basis for the reason why I moved forward in those areas. But when I heard that news, I said, this is not my story. But I had to take a step back, and I had to look at things differently. I had to take a moment to realize that this is a process that's happening in my body. This is not me. Cancer doesn't have me. I don't have it. We have a process that's happening in the body and it's telling me something.
Mhm.
And so I have to make some changes. But internally, the person who had been doing all the things, who is background in functional medicine, lifestyle medicine certified, health and wellness coach, nurse practitioner, her first response was, "This is not my story. How am I going to tell people how to be well and I'm not well? Will they hear from me? Will they hear it from me?" But I come to find that it's totally different than what I anticipated. Having walked through the journey, I can actually talk to people in ways I couldn't even talk to before. So,
You know, and you're 1,000% correct. And so this is not about me. This is your story and we want to tell it. But I want to connect the dot here. And I remember, as I said, for me, it was a quick transition. I remember the day, actually, we had relatives, our grandchildren were visiting us from Illinois, from Wisconsin, here in South Florida. And they're out in the pool playing around, splashing around. And my wife is in, as you know, as a new grandmother, she's in heaven. She's got the grandkids. They're out in the pool. She's having a good time. They're splashing water on each other. And I got the phone call from the GI. And I didn't tell her because I didn't want to ruin the time, because she was in, and I was enjoying my time as well. But she was in such a blissful place. And so it gave me an opportunity to kind of just process by myself before I said anything to her or anyone. And I remember quickly, and I just want to connect the dot to what you just said, because here I am, the cancer pastor. Many people refer to me as the cancer pastor, where I have been preaching, teaching health, healing, wellness, wholeness. I developed and created a cancer care ministry training program that literally is operational around the world, called Our Journey of Hope. Just got a phone call from a church in Lagos, Nigeria, just the other day, that they said that they just started their cancer care ministry. Pray for them. And then I was like, well, Lord, what am I going to say? I mean, I'm supposed to be an example of what the word does and how the word works and the power of faith. And, I'm Mr. Faith Man and And the Lord quickly checked me. He said, this is not about you. This was never about you. He said, now you get to have a real testimony, because you get to tell those people and look them in the eye. I know how you feel today.
Mhm.
I know what it's like to receive that phone call. I know what some of that mental, emotional tension is with regard to, where is my faith? And do I have enough faith? And, what do I do with my medical doctor? And do I listen to my doctor? You've been preaching and teaching this. Now you're going to get to walk it. And you're going to be certified, not on a piece of paper, but on the inscription of your heart, that you're going to be able to preach and teach to this community in an authentic way, that when you speak, they're going to listen to you with more attention, because they know that you are not just reading some words off of a page of a book, and you're not reciting something that you heard somebody else say. So sis, with that, I say to you, I appreciate that, because that is a very real thing. So with that, let's dig into a little bit, because then we'll get into your story. Let's talk a little bit of your medical background, because again, I know you have a business, a ministry, etc. Let's talk about, who are you from a medical clinician perspective, so people can really appreciate your comments.
So I'm a nurse practitioner, but I'm also a health and wellness coach. I work in corporate America and I have a business.
Okay.
So I have a couple things that happen. I've been in healthcare over 30 years. And I've done several different things. When you met me, I was a respiratory therapist. And for some reason, I got the idea to go back to school and worked on my master's at Marquette University. And so my background is acute care. I went from working inside the hospital to working as a hospitalist nurse practitioner. And at that point is when I started to make the change. Something in me realized I wanted to get to people before they got to this point. The holistic approach to life had always been my approach, my personal approach. And at this point, I wanted to infuse it into the care that I gave for people.
Okay.
So when I talk, I think of myself and what I share with people is a very integrative approach. And so I believe that we have to address the physical, the mental, emotional, the spiritual, the relational issues that we have. All of that has to be approached and when we're dealing with people and taking care of our patients. So for me, a personalized healthcare is important, that I'm dealing with you, the individual, not just your diagnosis. Because diabetes is just one word, but diabetes can mean many different things when you're dealing with the individual and how you approach them and how you take care of them.
Yeah.
So we want to deal with the overall of, well-being of a person. What we do, it doesn't matter where I'm at, Pastor. What I found about me early on is I find joy in seeing people being able to operate in their gift and ability. So whether I'm working in ministry, whether I'm in healthcare, whether I'm coaching, whether I'm teaching, doing education, it all comes back to the same thing. I want to equip people so they can go out and do the work that they're called to do.
Okay.
For me, healthcare is a tool. Coaching is a tool. Behavior change, all the things that I work with, lifestyle change, those are tools. Functional medicine, that's a tool to get people healthy and well so they can do the work that they're called to do. I think I'm a little selfish, to be honest, because I know if you are healthy and well, then you're going to impact the world around you and I'll benefit from it.
Oh,
So that's how I see it.
stop it. As the young folks say in the hip hop community, that's a bar.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can re-say that. Please restate that. That may be the title for this show.
I genuinely just believe that we are here for an exchange. We're here to help one another. And so when I give my gift and ability and I equip you and you are able to do I want you to be vibrant. I want you to enjoy life. I want you to get out there and do what you're called to do so that you can impact those around you, impact the world around you. And in that we're all going to be blessed for it. So it doesn't matter what area I could have worked in, wherever you place me, I'm going to be doing the same thing. It might look a little different, but I will be doing the same thing.
I'm going to just kind of re-summarize that because what I heard and what jumped out of my heart and almost snatched the breath out of me, because that was an anointed word, sis, is you made reference to, and I'm going to say this because I considered him to be, for me, a spiritual mentor. He revolutionized my thinking from a Christian theological perspective. And, there are a lot of people in traditional Christianity that don't particularly like Dr. Miles Monroe. And that's another conversation for another day. But the thing that he did for me theologically as a kid that was born and raised in church all my life was that he refocused my thinking based upon the same comment that you just made, that if as a believer, as children of God, as people who have been blood washed and forgiven of their sins, and we are now saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Ghost, I'm getting into my Kojic bag right now. So with that, love Kojic. I wasn't raised Kojic, but I do love Kojic. So saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost. Then what? Well, we just walk around, we just quote scriptures, we just go to church, we just have chicken dinners and we go to convocations. And what is our purpose and how do we tap into that? And when you don't tap into your purpose, I'm being cheated of something that you have in you that I need. Dr. Miles Monroe was the first person that taught about purpose. I'll never forget it. I was deep in sin. I ain't talking about a little bit in sin. I was so out of the will of God, sis, it wasn't funny. I wasn't thinking about God. And it was on the heels of my dad had just been abducted in a carjacking, and he had been hit by a truck, and my dad was disabled. And I was trying to come to terms with, what was going on with my dad. And I accidentally caught a TV sermon of this little short guy with this funny accent talking about purpose and that everything that we do, everything that God has called us to is driving us ultimately to reposition us back to what is our gifts, what has God called us to be, and what has he instilled in us. And are you developing and nurturing that so that you can give that to the world so that, number one, what you have, you now are giving that to people that is blessing them. And when you die, you are dying empty. I heard everything that you said. And so with that, let me just summarize it this way. If we are sick mentally, emotionally, or physically, we cannot walk out our purpose. And therefore we are cheating the rest of the world because we are keeping our gifts, our talents, and our abilities to ourselves. And there's somebody in the earth that needs to be blessed by what is inside of Suzanne Tamika Lewis. God has invested something in you before the foundation of the world that he wants you to give to the rest of the world. And if we're not healthy, sis, we can't do that. And that is the biggest thing that I think hampers the local church today, is that the average person is sick, and therefore they're not able to give their measure to God. Oh my God. Thank you so much for saying that. Okay. Having said that, so when you heard words that you had cancer, who did you tell first? Who was the first person you had a conversation with? I would imagine it must have been Reverend D.
It was, but let me tell you what happened, because, we're in healthcare. So I go in on a Saturday morning. Actually, it was June 8th, 2024, which is it was a year of this past Saturday.
Okay.
So June 8th, I go in at 7 a.m. to have a mammogram. And by 2 p.m, I got a note on my email saying that your results are in. And I said, I'm a provider. I know results don't come like that. I don't even, as a provider, I would still have to look at them and release them. So this was way too fast. This was in the same day. And I thought, oh, okay. So I went on there and I looked and I thought, and this was Saturday. And so I went and had service on Sunday. We were listening to a message, and I think I was very, very still, very, very in a place of, okay, God, what are you doing in this moment?
Yeah.
I knew it was a moment where I had to begin to release some things and let some things go, not hold on and not worry. So I think for the first couple of days, I just said to my husband, I said, I think there was something abnormal on my imaging. They want me to go and do an ultrasound. By Monday, I had orders for an ultrasound. By Wednesday, I was getting an ultrasound. And by that following Monday, the 17th, I was in getting a biopsy. And by that following Thursday, is how fast this went. I was running a meeting, and I got the call from my provider with the results. And I had to sit and listen to the results and then go back to the meeting.
Wow.
So I think my husband told me that it wasn't until the biopsy results that it really hit him what was happening.
Yeah. How did he react? How did he respond to that?
I think he's steady. He is like a rock. He is steady rock. So he literally has been my support, my rock throughout all this. I had never, I don't think I've ever seen someone grow in real time as I have with my husband. I've never seen someone be more than I could ever imagine in this moment. Because
he's a solid dude. He's a solid dude. Always has been.
Yeah. The caregivers is a whole segment, continue to talk to the caregivers who went from being a spouse to a caregiver back to a spouse. And there's a transition of that, especially with women who are going through breast cancer, because there's so many different aspects of that. There's surgery, you have scars, and you have changes. And then you're there. He was in there. I mean, there was nothing he hadn't participated in, done, seen. If he wasn't healthcare, he was healthcare now.
Okay.
And so I can't thank him enough for being the arms that I could just, I can be this big girl out here teaching and giving education, but he always allows me to come back. And he's that covering for me in those moments where I could just lay my head on his chest and and in this crazy year that I went through. And he has been amazing. Also, in that first week, I made a clear thought for myself. I did not want to go through this process alone. Okay. So I was not one of the people who didn't want to share what I was going through.
Okay.
Again, for me, my husband and I had been teaching recently about building healthy relationships. And I knew the importance of having community as I walked through this process.
Yeah.
So early on, I did share with a colleague and then with my son and daughter-in-law. And I want to share with you because this is why it's important to share with people. Because again, I had the mammogram results came in on Saturday. I'm back to work on Tuesday in the office. And I decided to pull the report up. And when I pulled the report up, it hit me. The emotions of it. I was all peaceful and still and be still and let God do all this work at that moment until it was in my hand. Yeah. And I went to share with my coworker. She's a physician assistant, and there was another physician in there. And I think when I saw their faces, report, it did something in me. And she must have saw it in my face.
Yeah.
Because she stopped what she was doing. And I'm not going she stopped what she was doing. And she said, let's go outside.
Okay.
When we went outside and she was like, I know who we are. I know that we're in healthcare. I know what that paper says. She said, but I want to find you. I want to ask you, whose report are you going to believe?
Okay.
And there are moments and times where you need people to can see where you are and be able to pull you out of a moment.
Yeah.
And I mean, this sweetheart, she's younger than me, but in that moment, she felt huge. She felt like she reached down and grabbed me in a moment and pulled me back up and said, whose report are you going to believe?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I needed that in that moment. And it kind of, just redirected me and got me back to where I needed to be. I shared with my son and my children what was going on.
Yeah, I was going to ask about your kids because they're older now. They're big.
They're adults. And actually, my son and his wife are living, my youngest son and his wife are living out in Charlotte, North Carolina. My oldest son was here locally at the time, and he was working at Elevation Ministries.
Oh.
And so it was also a little hard for me to share with him because I wanted to tell him, but they had recently gone to a funeral of a friend of theirs who lost their mom or lost a parent to cancer. And so it hit them a little hard.
Yeah.
And also I wanted him to know, because they were ready to get in the car and come. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm about to live. I don't know what you're thinking. I said, but I'm about to live. I said, so when they heard they had come to visit and my daughter-in-law was sitting on the couch next to me, she said, we want to be here with you as you walk this journey. And I said, I didn't want to take them away from what they were doing. He loved what he was doing in ministry. He loved the work that he was doing. It was not something that I wanted. They did not listen to me. And so they packed up the car and the family ended up coming back here. And it was probably one of the best things between my husband and my son, them being here and my daughter being here, because I didn't know how much I needed them. I was able to navigate through the surgery piece okay, but I struggled with the radiation piece. And that, and I'll share a little bit more with you, but that piece was the struggle. And I have to share this a little bit. The morning of my first treatment, my son comes over to the house playing some kind of like workout hard music and saying, Mom, you need to go in there, like you throwing up your hoodie and going in there and going into battle. So I didn't know what he was saying. I said, but I'm going to go in there. I'm going in the battle.
I'm going in there. I'm getting there.
I went and had my treatment. And so as we were leaving out, I told my husband, let's do a video for him so that we can show him that we did it. So I had a hoodie and I put the hoodie on and we did a video with some music and I turned the hoodie up and we walked on out of there like we had won the victory. And I still have that video. I have to send it to you. to you. It was just the energy I needed to know that no matter what this might be, I wouldn't feel like that, the battle is already won. It is already won. So we do need community though. I'm going to be honest with you. We do need community as we walk from everyone who prayed, my friends who prayed for me, family. My sister couldn't do nothing but cut up watermelon. She has cut up so much watermelon. She didn't know what else to do, but she wanted to show me that she cared. And so we need community.
Well, there's a lot that I heard there. So I'm going to try to unpack a couple of things. Number one, you are right. Part of the mission and purpose of Percy McCray Ministries as I transitioned out of corporate healthcare ministry was the Lord said, I need you to create community.
Yes,
again, and we know that there's a lot of conversation going on right now about community. Do I belong to a church? Do I not go to a church? Do I do a cell group? Do I do a home church? There's a lot going on in the space around that discussion. That's another seminar for another day. But what I do know again, given my 30-year history, is that for many cancer patients specifically, they do not have strong community, which then does not allow them to have agency.
Yes.
I know people who belong to great local churches, but they lacked insight around healthcare ministry and specifically cancer care ministry. So though they had community with a local church around their faith and their spiritual experience, they felt in many cases that they didn't have community or agency around their healthcare struggles and dynamics. And that's why I love, number one, the young lady who kind of said, listen, let's go outside. Let's go step outside for a second. Because what you needed from her at that exact moment was community and agency around specifically what you were dealing with. And I'm here to say, as a public service announcement, no hate, no shade. And I don't want any beef at the end of the day, but I will take the smoke, is the fact that there are still within our four walls of most of our local churches, we are not equipped to do exactly what that young lady did in that moment, understanding the scenario and situation around health, challenges mentally and emotionally, and then being able to amalgamate the spiritual care that she provided to you in a healthcare context.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number two, shout out to my brother. And again, I say this affectionately, Brother Darren, because he has always been that even keel personality, just kind of steady as I don't think I've ever seen him, his emotion high or low. He's just kind of that even keel kind of dude. But I want to send out a shout out today to the caregivers and to husbands who are helping their wives step through a cancer battle. You get a huge shout out, my brother. I love you. And again, it's coming from a real place. And then your kids, you know, that basically said, hey, Mom, and I love, and I am going to create some type of visual for this. Because again, knowing you as well as I do, with a hoodie on, like, hey, listen, we going into battle, we got this, is the most profound thing that I heard, because we know that the Bible says that we war not with flesh and blood, but with principalities and spirits and evil wickedness in high places. But we still, the battle is the Lord's, sis, but we got to show up for the fight.
Just show up.
We got to show up for the fight. So having said that, that was just some good stuff there. As a Christian and as the wife of a minister, you know, was your faith ever at any time shaken with your cancer diagnosis? I hear a lot of people say, you know, yeah, that didn't faze me at all. I took it on the chin and I just rebuked the devil and I said he was a liar. And then I found out behind the closed doors, well, yeah, there was a couple of nights I did cry. But there was a couple of times I was kind of struggling a little bit, because I think that one of the things that we have been indoctrinated to do as Christians and believers is to lie, is not tell the truth, that we have moments that our humanity kicks in. I believe the Apostle Paul said it best. He said, I learned something, guys, that when I was weak, then that's when I became strong, because the power of Christ could rest upon me. Did you ever have a moment? And again, it doesn't mean that you weren't walking in faith. It doesn't mean that you weren't trusting God. Did you have a moment for, you know, for an instant, a second, I don't know, an hour, whatever, that you kind of had to regroup? You had to kind of pull it together and be like, okay, all right, hold it. I'm tripping a little bit right here. And let me get myself centered and lock back into my square of what I know medically and also what I know spiritually.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think as a result of all of this, my faith and my walk has become more solidified.
Okay.
But it's a process.
Absolutely.
There were moments where I like to lean into, because we have all these external things when it comes to cancer, and things that look pink and pretty and blue and ribbons and all this kind of stuff. But there are people when they're in their quiet moments.
Yeah.
And there's no cameras on, when there's nobody with them. Those are the moments where you have to, whose report are you going to believe? When you have to trust the word, when you have to lean in, because it gets hard in those. You know why it gets hard? Because we have these filters, we have these habits, these ways of thinking, but when we're operating through these senses, these patterns that we've had for years, the way we see things, the way we interpret things, then that's what gets us in trouble. And that's okay, because we're human. We all have to work on behavior change. We all have to work on our habits.
Yeah.
What we speak, the internal conversations that we have with ourselves. And I'm telling you, the big part of this journey for me, I thought it was the treatment, but the biggest part of this journey was the internal work. When this diagnosis came, I was putting together a I think it's kind of funny. I was putting together a course on the work of healing and transformation.
Wow.
I had commandeered a whole nother room and everything was out there. I was putting the course together, had all the post-it notes, all the things, getting it, what I'm going to do in each section to talk about healing, wholeness, transformation, to talk about how we go from, what our nature is to what we're designed to do and be.
Okay.
Right in the middle of that, all this happened. And why would all that happen except for I still had to do some work? There's still some inner work that I had to do. And for me, this past year was a year of that inner work, the inner conversation that I'm having. There's life and death in the tongue, in the words that we speak.
Correct.
What does that mean to people? We have words that we say, but what does that really mean? The words that we're speaking and the thoughts that we had, that's why we're working so hard to bring into captivity every thought, everything that we are encountering. We have to be able to bring down some structures. There's some things that we put in place just by the words that we speak.
Yep.
And we have to be able to do that inner work, which is, dealing with your inner conversation, dealing with feeling of, are you worthy? We have a lot of people who are in church and people who are in wherever they are. Sometimes they just don't feel like they're worthy of healing. They want it. Am I going to receive it?
Yeah.
Am I going to receive it? I've seen other people
Right.
that happen for me. And so the conversations and the work behind that is not pretty. It's every day. It's every day having a conversation, being transparent and looking at you and being willing to make the change, being willing to let go and release some things, not holding on to some past things that you may be holding on to, not holding on to unforgiveness.
And on that note, I think that is a completely separate show. So what I want to do for the sake of people's attention and for the sake of, I don't want to cheat that topic, transition or focus, we're going to stop this show right here.
Okay.
So let me say this. First of all, you are listening to an amazing human being, Black woman, medical professional, a mother, grandmother who has and is walking a path of healing, as she just discussed. And that's the whole point of this exercise. I want to do this, is that we're gonna conclude this segment because I wanted to get her backstory, because I think that it is important that every cancer patient has a story, has something to say. And while it's fresh in my mind, if you have a story as a cancer patient and you want to tell your story, reach out to me and let me know, because this is what I know after 30 years. All cancer patients have a story. All cancer patients have something that they've experienced. And in many cases, they have something that they want to say, but they just don't necessarily have anyone that wants to hear them or a platform to share that story. That's what, in part and partial, Health, Hope, and Inspiration and Percy McCray Ministries is here to do. I am not here to play games with this conversation. This is no scam. This is not just the flavor of the month. In fact, most people don't want to talk about this conversation, but there is so much to unpack with this that we need to discuss. And so with that being said, we're going to conclude this episode with my dear sister, dear friend of mine, and then we're going to bring her back to talk about specifically doing the inner work. And we're going to talk about her ministry. We're going to talk about her coaching, her business, and we're going to really dig into that and give you her contact information. Maybe she can share some insight. Maybe she could give some words of wisdom. And if she's willing to share her contact information, she is a coach, and maybe you can utilize her coaching services, and we need to access that. So I'm going to provide you all of that contact information. But what I want to say right now is thank you for listening to Health, Hope, and Inspiration. And I thank you for being faithful as we continue to build this community. Now, listen to me, folks. I need your help. I am asking you to support this ministry by doing a couple of things. First of all, if this show spoke to you, I want you to hit the click, the like, share, and add comments. What was said today that mattered to you? What was said today that impacted you? Again, let's have a conversation. So let's engage. So send some comments. Let me know that there was something that you heard from this woman of faith, this healthcare professional, that really resonated with you. So click like, share, and leave comments. Hit the notification bell button. So for each new show, When that show comes out, you won't have to look for me. The show will come and find you. Did you hear me? You won't have to look for me. I will come and find you when you hit the notification button when we upload new shows. And then, of course, if the Lord is leading you and prompting you, we certainly can appreciate your financial support. This program is being sponsored by the faithful support of people like you who are listening today. We are not charging anybody for anything. So I want to make sure we get it clear. Don't get it twisted. Everything that we're doing off of this program is absolutely free of charge. But if the Lord is prompting you and saying, listen, I'd like to partner with Pastor P. I'd like to partner with Percy McRae Ministries. I'd like to continue to support the work that he's doing to push this forward. Again, the software, the computer equipment, all of the things that are needed to do this requires resources. And so I ask you to support this work. Go to percymcraeministries.org, percymcraeministries.org, and you will be given instructions on how you can sow a seed into this ministry as we continue to push this message, the gospel, but also the gospel of health, healing, and wellness. There's some things that we're going to have to go back to in the privacy of our hearts and in our homes, and we're going to have to dig, and we're going to have to get into what really are some of the inner working dynamics, and we're going to talk about that with Sister Tamika. So go to percymcraeministries.org, leave a prayer request, join us every Thursday night at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, where we have a live prayer stream where we are praying for the sick every Thursday night. We are creating a digital community and agency, as we've talked about before, around the dynamics of mental, emotional, and physical healing, health, and wellness. Every Thursday night, join us during our hour of power prayer time at our digital prayer wall, where we will be praying for you, and we'll be giving you a little bit of the word. I'm going to teach you around some principles of the word of God that'll help with the prayer life that you have also, not to replace your church, not to replace your pastor, but as a supplement to, as we continue to believe that God is working on our behalf. And also, if you have a story that you want to tell on health, hope, and inspiration, and I have free digital downloadable resources. Everybody say free, 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 free. Free resources that you can download around topics around supporting children whose parents have cancer. How can cancer impact my relationship with my husband? Our nutritional support. What's going on in our mind? We've been talking about that. So there's a plethora of topical digital resources available to you free of charge that you can access and highlight, all on percymcraeministries.org. Well, with that being said, that's all of my time, but I want you to stay tuned and follow the next video with Sister Suzanne, because we're going to talk about the inner work that needs to be done, that she has experienced, that she is working through as a seasoned Christian healthcare professional and now a cancer patient. You don't want to miss that conversation. But I do want to remind you of Jeremiah, where it tells us that we are God's battle axe and we are his weapons of war. So remember, in the meantime, we have work to do. So keep chopping the wood. You're armed and dangerous. Why don't you act like it? Talk to you next time. Bye.